many other...
This is right, Arab.
Hello and welcome to this WION Live Broadcast from Washington, D.C. I'm Kate Fisher, and in this bulletin we'll get you a roundup on stories developing around the world. First up, a look at the headlines.
The profile of the mutation strongly suggests that it's going to have an advantage in transmissibility and that it might evade immune protection.
Amid fears of a new, highly mutated Omicron variant, America's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, warns of the variant's potential to evade vaccine immunity.
We are deeply disappointed by the decision of several countries to prohibit travel from a number of Southern African countries, including our own, following the identification of the Omicron variant.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa slams Western countries for imposing travel bans over the new COVID variant. He called it a clear violation of commitments promised at the G20 in Rome last month.
No country, no community, and no individual is safe until we are all safe.
The World Health Organization warns that the risk related to the COVID variant Omicron was, quote, very high, a day after it classified it as a variant of concern. The Russian Defence Minister publishes video footage claiming to show a Zircon hypersonic missile being successfully fired. The advanced missile systems are capable of reaching up to Mach 5 speeds. Iran's top nuclear negotiator says the focus at Vienna talks will be on reaching an agreement with Western nations to salvage the 2015 nuclear deal, even as Tehran's top priority remains removal of economic sanctions. Honduran presidential candidate Castro claims victory as supporters danced outside her offices to celebrate the left's return to power 12 years after her husband was ousted in a coup. Let's start here in America, which has just celebrated Thanksgiving weekend. But the weekend was marked by a grim discovery. South Africa sounded the alarm on a new, highly mutated variant. The Omicron variant has unusually high numbers of mutations. Apart from throwing a spanner in the works for the Biden administration, the news created a stir in the stock markets. The holiday spending season, famous for the Black Friday sales, plunged the forecast of record-shattering shopping spending. The Dow Jones average dropped by 900 points on Friday, and experts have rushed back to their labs to learn more about this new variant. The World Health Organization has already dubbed it as a variant of concern, and at least 13 countries have recorded fresh cases, which are possibly linked to the newly discovered variants. Amid the fears of a virus surge and new restrictions, the US's top infectious disease expert, Anthony Fauci, has warned of a new concern. He says that the Omicron variant, quote unquote, might evade immune protection received from vaccines or from prior infections.
There's a thing called a cushion effect. The profile of the mutations strongly suggests that it's going to have an advantage in transmissibility and that it might evade immune protection that you would get, for example, from a monoclonal antibody or from the convalescent serum after a person's been infected, and possibly even against some of the vaccine-induced antibodies. So it's not necessarily that that's going to happen, but it's a strong indication that we really need to be prepared for that.
Well, the new COVID-19 Omicron variant, which has triggered alarm all over the world, is now posing new risks for the American people. This comes at a time when the Biden administration is attempting to control the spread of the latest strain of the virus. In the latest, it's focusing on booster shots as a key weapon to protect the nation against the variant. The World Health Organization, in its latest update, said that it's still too early to know if the new variant, known as the Omicron, is more transmissible than the Delta variant. Meanwhile, the issue of vaccine resistance has taken on a new urgency in this country. According to a recent study, 32% of people in the United States remain unlikely to get vaccinated against the virus. The newest group of vaccine doubters are parents of children who have just received approval to get the shots. A poll which was conducted late in October shows that only 1 in 3 American parents want to vaccinate their 5 to 11-year-olds. According to experts, vaccine superstitions particularly track with a lack of trust in government. As of now, the United States has recorded a total of 23,000 cases in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, the White House is urging Americans to get COVID-19 booster shots in order to help stem the new variant. Well, let's cross now to our correspondent, Susan Tehrani in New York, who has more on all of this for us. First of all, Susan, what has all this meant for those hopes that Black Friday shopping and consumer spending would help the economy? How has this Omicron variant discovery changed that?
So on Black Friday, 2 things happened. Regarding Omicron, stocks dropped significantly on Black Friday, and that was perhaps not a good sign considering the fact that it shows how volatile the stock market is, because we don't know much about this variant. So that wasn't a good sign. But regarding shoppers, stores didn't see that many shoppers go and get the deals that they wanted to, perhaps because there weren't that many doorbusters deals and we didn't see big lines. It's not yet clear whether or not it was related to this virus or not, mostly because a lot of analysts believe it was related to the supply chain shortage and inflation, and also related to the fact that a lot of stores had already started sales a week in advance, and a lot of shoppers had, again, because of the fear of the supply chain shortage, done their shopping a lot sooner. That was related to Black Friday. There is hope that Cyber Monday, which is today in the United States, might make up for that. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it was pretty cold here in Washington anyway to go to the shops last Friday. What about the fears and the worries about this new variant? Do you think Americans are concerned about it?
You know, it seems that Americans have made up their minds regarding COVID and Corona, one way or the other. There are those that really see this as a way of living to bypass it and something that they have to deal with. You know, they got the vaccine, they get their boosters, and they want to continue with their lives. There are others that are continuing to wait and see what happens. Understandably, with autoimmune diseases, the elderly, those who are compromised, that, wait to see what happens next. And then there are those that just don't believe in any of this and think that it's political. It's a very politically charged environment. But whatever it is, Americans have made up their mind about how they want to deal with this virus. And for what it's worth, Dr. Fauci has said that he leans towards caution and not panic. So, and he also said that it'll be 2 weeks until we know whether or not the current vaccine that we have at hand will be effective towards this new variant or not. So that's where we stand right now. He also said that, get your vaccines, get your boosters, and go ahead with masks. But I think for the most part, it's safe to say that Americans will continue to do what they have been doing with the other variants until they have more information.
What about the threat of potential restrictions again? Lockdowns or travel restrictions? We've just had Thanksgiving, a big holiday, but Christmas is the next one coming up next month. Are there concerns that people's Christmas plans are going to be thwarted again?
Right, a lot of concern about that, notably with the economy and air travel on the one hand, and on the other hand, governors again are going state by state to see how they want to deal with their residents and constituents. I can talk about here in New York, Kathy Hochul, where New York really was the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic at the very beginning. She took really strong measures on Friday and called for a state of emergency. She also stopped elective surgeries in hospitals very quickly again during the weekend. Some say this is extreme measures for a virus that we don't know much about. Others say it's a precautionary measure that must be taken. But, an executive order perhaps for the state of New York on the one hand, but then you have a lot of red states who are saying that they're going to go along with their lives until they learn more about it, and they're going to rely on more information. So, as you know, in the United States, the law goes state by state unless the president issues an executive order. We'll have to wait and see what President Biden comes up with. He's going to be addressing the nation later on today.
Susan Tehrani in New York, thank you so much for all those updates. Well, the newly discovered Omicron variant has been detected in 13 countries so far. There are 7 countries in Europe detecting fresh cases of the variant. Apart from Europe, it's been detected in South Africa, Botswana, Australia, Israel, Hong Kong and Canada. Canada's so far confirmed at least 2 cases. According to reports, both of the patients have a travel history to Nigeria. Canada's restricted the entry of foreign nationals from several countries in southern Africa. And Canada has sparked fears all across North America. America's ramped up its travel restrictions as well. Flights have been banned from South Africa and 7 other nations in the African region. And the top infectious diseases expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, has now defended these restrictions.
When you diminish or stop or block travel from a particular country, there's a reason for that. It's to give you time to do things. So don't let this decision that was made about blocking the travel from certain countries go without a positive effect. And the positive effect is to get us better prepared, to rev up on the vaccination, to be really ready for something that may not actually be a big deal, but we want to make sure that we're prepared for the worst, and that's what we should be doing.
Meanwhile, Japan has announced tough border measures, barring all new foreign arrivals from entering the country.
外国人の入国については11月30日午前0時より全世界を対象に禁止をいたします。
Australia has also confirmed at least 3 cases of the new variants. According to reports, a South African man has tested positive for the new mutant variant after arriving from Johannesburg last week. Israel has recorded 2 cases of the Omicron variant. The Ministry of Transportation has restricted travellers from using public transport, and there's a mandatory quarantine period of 3 days. Meanwhile, WION spoke to the spokesperson at Israel's Sheba Medical Center, Steve Volz. It's one of the top 10 hospitals in the world. Mr. Volz spoke about concerns regarding the latest mutant variant and how Israel is preparing to combat the spread. Let's have a listen in.
At this moment, Israeli investigators are checking to see exactly how bad the situation is with Omicron, whether or not it is more infectious, whether or not it punches through the existing vaccines that we're using here in Israel, which are Pfizer and Moderna. It'll take another week or two before we really know. What we're really concerned about is a new spike in the existing corona numbers here in Israel and the flu season. We don't want a situation where there is a perfect storm, where people are not vaccinating for the flu. We may have to vaccinate for the 4th vaccine. If this all comes together on top of Omicron, Israel will be one of the countries that will suffer greatly, but the government is taking measures to try and prevent a real outbreak here. So we're still in an unknown phase.
Now to China, which is chasing a new ambition, an ambition to become Africa's top investor by 2024. At least that's what several reports have been revealing. China's investments in Africa span across countries and billions of dollars. One project which has remained in the limelight for years is Kenya's Standard Gauge Railway, which was built using a steep loan from the Chinese. Kenya borrowed over $3 billion from China to build the 472-kilometre long railway line, which connects the port city of Mombasa to the capital, Nairobi. Kenya borrowed another $1.5 billion for a second branch of the railway line from the capital to the city of Naivasha. The line's been operational since 2017 and it's Kenya's most expensive infrastructure project since the country's independence. Now, 4 years later, the nightmare over paying the bill continues. In the latest, the Chinese firm running the train service is now demanding pending dues in exchange for handing over the reins to Kenya next year. The Chinese company named Afristar has been managing the ticketing system, landing and offloading of cargo and collection of passenger fares. But before May 2022, Kenya will need to either settle millions of unpaid dues or restructure the liability into a debt that will be repaid over a longer period. Apart from the operating fees, the actual loan of over $4 billion will also need to be repaid to the Exim Bank of China. The project has put a strain on Kenya's government and taxpayers already hit by the economic fallout from the COVID pandemic. Data compiled by a US research lab at the College of William and Mary shows that China has at least 100 loan contracts with 24 low to middle income countries, a number of whom are struggling under a mounting debt burden due to the economic fallout from the pandemic. That's all from me here in Washington for now. I'll see you next time, but do keep watching WION World is One for all the latest global updates.
This is right, Arab.